All right, so I'm making this video in case you were absent when we covered set and interval notation, or if maybe you need a little extra practice with it or something like that. So back in Algebra 1 or whenever, when you had a number line and you graphed an inequality, like let's say you had something like this, a circle and then an arrow going that way. So when you wrote this, you wrote, oh, x is greater than 2. Okay, and so that was more like set notation. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time. But remember, if this is filled in, remember it's an equal bar. Okay, so if we like complete set notation on here, we would say, we'd draw a little set. We'd say x is an element of the real number system. So it's a real number such that, and then we'd say, oh, only the number is greater than or equal to 2. So that's actually like full-on set notation. Well, when you do something called interval notation, it's actually kind of easier. You don't have to say all this part up here. I guess it's just assume that it's a real number, but it starts at 2, and when somebody points in this direction, this is going to infinity. So basically, you take and you put the low number and the high number of your area. So the low number is 2, and the high number is infinity because it never stops. And then you choose whether or not to put a parentheses or a bracket. Now, when you want the number, think of a bracket being like you're like grabbing something, okay? Parentheses is like, oh, I'm staying away, like I don't really want you. So I want this number, so I'm going to put a bracket around it, okay? And then the infinity, you can actually never grab infinity. You can't reach it, so you always put a parentheses around that, okay? And so let's add on to this a little bit since I have this picture. So we're going to have things that have two sides to them. So like, let me put on like, I don't know, like this and go that way. So we all know that as x is less than or equal to -1. So if I was trying to do that with my interval notation, I would say this. It's going off to negative infinity. So my smaller number in this region is negative infinity, comma, my large number is -1. I'd put a bracket around that and parentheses there. Okay, so now set notation, I'm going to have to like start over here. So when I have these two problems, I have, you can't be in both places at once. So you can be here or you can be there. So if I want to say here or there, what I have to do is start my set notation. X is a real number such that, and then I have to say this, either x is less than or equal to -1 or x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, and so that would be set notation for these two graphs together. Okay, and here, interval notation, I would just link these with the word or in interval notation speak, and so that was a union symbol, so that's or. Okay. All right, so let's do another one like that. First of all, let's go from like here over, and how about 0 back? So if I was doing set notation, I would say, hey, x is a real number, element of the real number, such that either x is less than 0 or x is greater than 3. And then I would do my interval notation. I would say this little one goes from negative infinity all the way back to 0, the highest number, parentheses because I don't really want 0, or then it starts back up at 3, or actually after 3, so 3, comma, goes off to infinity. So it has to go large, small, small, large, small, large, and this gets a parentheses, and infinity always gets a parentheses. Okay, so those are broken up graphs. So then you come to ones where it was contained. So the other types of graphs we'll have to do are ones where, let's say it starts here and goes to 4 and it's everything in between. So if I was going to write that with set notation, I would say that x is between -2 to 4. Because look at this, x is less than 4, so it goes that way. And I know this is backwards, but this really says x is bigger than -2. So when you write something in a sentence, a complete sentence like that, the inequality symbol is always open to the right, and you just put your x in the middle. Okay, so this is my area, and I could just do my set notation. X is an element of the real numbers such that. There it is. And then interval notation is so this is set and interval. Interval notation is very easy for this part. I would just do -2, 4, because that's the low and the high, and then they do not have equal bars on them. They're not filled in, so parentheses, and that's it. Okay. All right, so let's just do one more of those. So let's say that I was, I don't know, -1 to 5. And so you could do something where it's like closed and open. We don't see that a whole lot, but you know, you could, so if I did that here, I would say x is what? Between -1 to 5, and the -1 would be equal to. And if I was doing that with interval notation, I would say bracket around the -1 all the way to 5, and I would put a parentheses there. But usually in our stuff, we don't have them different like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in and put a line there. And then that would be a bracket. Okay, so usually they're not like different. They're kind of like either both parentheses or both brackets. But if I complete my set notation, x is an element of the real numbers such that, and you put these little squiggly lines around it. All right, so this is your set notation and this is your interval notation. Okay, and then the last two things we have to kind of cover is that what if the answer is, remember you had all real numbers, you could have everything, or what if your graph is blank? Remember, blank is no solution. Okay, so if you have everything, that kind of makes sense. You're like, okay, it goes from -infinity to +infinity. So x is between -infinity to +infinity. You can't equal infinity. So set notation, x is a real number. All right, so there's that. And for interval notation, you just put -infinity, comma, infinity, and put parentheses around them. That means everything. All right, and then blank, no solution, means this. Set notation would be an empty set, so literally nothing. X is not even a real number, like there's no answer. And for interval notation, there just is no interval notation for that because you need actually something to write and there's nothing to write, so it's just kind of like not applicable. So you can put like NA or something if you want, like that. Okay, so your job will be to do the questions on the sheet underneath the video here to get your credit for the classwork. Okay, bye-bye.